How are you feeling?
Excellent, really good. I met with my nephrologist a couple of weeks ago, and he asked about energy levels and so forth, and I said this is the best I've probably felt in 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know how bad I was, put it that way.
Well, that's great to hear. You're healthy and you're teaching and coming to the end of the semester, right?
Yeah, we have one more week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to that. This is the first semester we've been doing face-to-face. Obviously, I was a bit apprehensive.
Right.
We're masked up and everything, but
Right.
given all the anti-immune drugs I'm on,
Right.
antidepressants, I was more than hesitant about what it was going to be like.
Sure. I was talking with some folks over at Sentara yesterday, and I did not realize that all of the drugs that transplant recipients are on and what they do to suppress the immune system. And that's something that those of us who haven't been on this journey that you've been on need to realize when we come into contact with people who have had transplants.
Yeah, I really rely on the bubble around me.
Mm-hmm.
I've had my shots, and I had 2 boosters, and I still caught COVID.
Wow.
And I mask up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no one in my house got it. They were all safe. I got it last September, and it was terrible. It was really bad.
Was that, you think, because of your the drugs you're on?
Well, I think that lowered my immunity, and obviously I encountered someone even with a mask on, and all my family had masks. But I was really annoyed because I was so careful what I do.
Right. I can understand.
I was trying to, for a couple of days, I was trying to track back who did I encounter that I could have caught it off. But
right.
I mean, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. We all have so many people we cross paths with, even with masks on. It's tough to know sometimes.
Yeah, I lost like 20 pounds in 2 weeks. That's how bad it was.
In September.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they got me on the monoclonal antibodies, which sort of kicked it in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that was a close call, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was not pleasant. But the good thing is no one in my family got sick, even though I was obviously exposed. So, the time I figured out I had it, we'd already been, we hadn't been wearing masks at home. So
right.
They tested all negative. So that shows the vaccine works.
Right. Yeah. Well, good. Are you going to get will you get the additional booster, you think?
I've already had 2. So if they want me to get another one, I would.
Yeah. But you've had the second booster then.
Yeah. If I had it pretty much as soon as my nephrologist, he says, go get it now in December. So, because I just, it's like the flu shot. My antibodies go down pretty quickly.
Yeah. Right. So you will be on, perhaps if they could maybe recommend another one to you at some point in the process.
I would line up. I would be the first one.
I feel the same way when they say you're in a certain group or whatever. I don't hesitate. I don't want to get it.
Yeah, it was the worst experience I've had for a long time. It was probably the symptoms because they were so dramatic and so quick. I really, it was easier having kidney failure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're sure she's not trying to get in somewhere else, are you? Are we?
I'm just going to text her again.
Okay.
She sent me a note 6 minutes ago. So let me.
Okay. All right. Because I think I may have made a mistake and opened 2 Zoom windows here, but if you showed up on this one, this would have been the link she'd have, correct?
Yeah, let me. Unless you sent her a different one. I forwarded the one you sent me.
Wait, that would be the only one she'd have then.
Yeah.
So what time is it for her? Like 9, 10 at night?
No, so the way to figure it out is it's a 16-hour difference. So it's 8 hours behind tomorrow.
8 hours behind tomorrow.
Right. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning.
8 o'clock in the morning.
Friday morning.
Yeah,
because I can't do the 16 hours. So I figured out this is the best way to figure out we're on the same day at least. So, if she'd been at nighttime, we would have been, 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning or something.
Right.
It works out well.
What does she do?
She's a resource city planner type thing. Her job description might have changed recently. She manages an area in the Upper North Island of New Zealand, the resources and planning and environmental stuff, and deals with politicians. She probably has her title better off memorized than I do.
Yeah. So you were, I'm familiar with your story, but I want to also allow you both to, for TV purposes, explain it. But you were playing soccer, I understand, right? When you realized you had an issue.
Yeah. So I just got a text from Lesley. It says, I need to be led into the meeting. So I don't know if that changes things. Is she in the waiting room still? Or is there a waiting room?
She's trying to get in, she said?
Yeah, she said it needs to, she's getting the message. She's going to leave and try another way.
Huh.
But she's there. That's always a good point.
Okay. See, because I had two links, but if you showed up in this one, I can't she wants me to let her in, correct?
That's, I think, what she's saying. Yeah.
Preston.
I can send her the link again if you like.
Hey, Preston. Yeah, let me see it. I have another participant who's trying to get in. Admit her.
Click down at the bottom where it says participants. Let's see here.
There she is. She's hooked in now.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's in now.
Okay, and I am recording, right?
You are recording.
Okay. Well,
Hello.
welcome, and good morning.
Good morning. I was starting to think you didn't like me.
Oh, no. There may have been some technical challenges on my end.
Oh no, often it's me as well, so don't worry about that.
Okay. Preston, again, hold on one second. Preston, how is this going to work when people are talking? One second. How do I get both of them?
That I'm actually not sure. I think you'll just show who is talking. It'll automatically change on the recording.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we should be able to see everyone.
Yeah, when someone talks, they should pop up on screen.
Good enough.
Oh, there you go. Hello, Steve.
Yeah,
all right.
Happy birthday, sis.
Oh yeah, well that was yesterday, but yeah, I'll have 2 birthdays this year. That's good.
Yeah. Well, it's today here. Still your birthday here.
Still my birthday. Oh, that's good. You can have a drink of wine.
So we can wish you happy birthday, but in fact your birthday has passed. Is that correct?
Yeah, today's the April the 15th here. Someone else's birthday today.
All right. Well, happy birthday for us to you.
Thank you, David.
Well, you have a marvelous story, and in TV we let people tell the story because we're not a newspaper or a publication. So Stephen and I were talking about when he realized that he had an issue with his kidney. And Stephen, explain a little bit about how you discovered that.
Sure. I was playing soccer in over 40s league in Virginia Beach, and I took a whack to the back. It didn't feel very good, and sort of the next night I felt like I was going to pass a kidney stone, which I'd had previously, so I knew how that felt. So I went to the hospital to make sure everything was fine, and they did a scan. And as we were leaving, the guy who did the scan said, "You realize you've got cysts all over your kidneys?" And I went, caught off guard a little bit, and I said, "No, I wasn't aware of that." And so they got me in the system fairly quickly, and ended up with a nephrologist I work with now, Dr. Thomas McCune, and they really diagnosed me with polycystic kidney disease.
And so when did you learn you would need a transplant?
It was always on the cards, but we were hoping, you don't know how quickly the disease is going to progress. So I could have been at that stage, for 20 years and not progressed at all, or they just monitor you every year. But about 2018, my numbers took a little bit of they started getting worse pretty quickly. And that's when we started talking about, I'm going to need a transplant. In 2019, I was put on the transplant list.
And what was it like to be in search of in need of a donor?
It was very stressful to start off with. because I didn't know how to talk about it, and I hadn't been talking to people about it other than my family. And the fortuitous thing is, I was in Scotland visiting some family, and Lesley was there, and I mentioned it to her just so, if something happened, she could talk to my mother, who was alive at the time, just to let her know and not let her worry. And Lesley goes, well, I'm the same blood type as you. And I went, yeah, what are we going to do about that? You're in New Zealand, I'm in the States. But then when we came back here and I was back here working, we went to the centre at Sentara, and they went, you have a sister who's the same blood type. We will figure this out. So they only processed one person at a time. As soon as they figured out Lesley was a possible donor, they put all their energies into figuring out how this would work internationally.
Lesley, what was it like for you to learn that your brother needed a kidney and that you could perhaps be the one to donate it?
Yeah, it was quite, I'm not sure what the word is. It was sort of a really kind of emotional time, because, we knew Steve had sort of casually mentioned he had a problem with his kidneys, and we just thought, oh yeah, okay, that's fine, but when he actually told me what was happening when we were in Scotland, it sort of I went, well, as you do. So, well, what can we do? And you kind of say it a little bit offhand, but later on it became a very real thing. And I had to talk to my family as well and say, hey guys, I've got four children, 3 daughters and a son, and 8 grandchildren, and said to them and my husband, I said, well, what do you reckon? And they said, well, you've got to do it, Mum. So they were just fully behind it. But it was sort of a very surreal sort of feeling to think that I could help him in this way. And all of a sudden there was all these articles and things in the news, even here in New Zealand, talking about people donating their kidney, and some very famous people here in New Zealand had received them, not from family members. So it was sort of, it was sort of something that had to happen, but it was still a bit of a fact-finding mission about what the implications were and what that all meant. And it was sort of like a no-brainer. Well, yeah.
But you're 9,000 miles away.
Yeah, I know. That was a bit, when I first said it, I said, well, and eventually when Sentara did get hold of us, I went to my doctor, because I hadn't been to my general practitioner for many, many years, because I hadn't been ill. So I had to go through all the tests first to find out whether my kidneys were okay. And I don't know if Stephen told you, we have an older brother, and he was actually a bit frustrated that they didn't want his kidney. He was offering his as well. So, I mean, Steve had the option of 2, at one point. But so it was just finding out that I could do it, and then just going through everything I needed to do to find that I was a healthy option for him. So that was.
Stephen, how do you choose between two amazing gifts from 2 very generous siblings?
Yeah, it was. Well, what happened was my brother. There's a cutoff here at 65, so he just turned 66. So he was upset, and he gave me a bit of a hard time about it. But luckily, my sister is younger than him, and so they just worked up one person at a time. I'm sure if Lesley wasn't an option, my brother's very fit and healthy as well, they could have looked at him. But it's the best fit. When they did the testing and found we match up genetically across a lot of the markers. And Leslie's right. She sort of said it, I'm the same blood type, I can do it, as just like a throwaway comment. But it was only later when it started to sink in, as Lisa said, it was very emotional. And I really, it's hard to find the words to thank her for what she did, and my brother, and the support, and our mother at that time as well. It really was challenging as you go through not knowing when this was going to occur.
There's all of that, and there's COVID as well. There was a real added complication in all of this, correct?
Definitely, because we were actually scheduled for April for the first surgery. And as Lesley said, it was quite surreal. And looking back on it, I think the thinking about it and not quite understanding the whole process was a lot more stressful than actually doing it. When we had the surgery and the recovery, we're going like, oh, this actually, I probably made it worse in my head than it really was in reality. But COVID forced, that first surgery was postponed, And then we were looking at another date and a couple of months later, and that got postponed. I needed some more tests, and we were just sort of waiting. The way I paraphrase it is, my system's declining slowly, and we're waiting for COVID to ease off so they can get us back on the surgical routine. It's like this race between two snails, see which one would win the race. And finally they gave us the okay. But we didn't get much warning. Luckily, my sister had already paid for a plane ticket, and it was more or less like, okay, we need you here in, was it like 2 weeks or something like that?
Lesley, talk about what you went through, planes, trains, automobiles, tests, medical workups. This is quite an ordeal to get the stuff done on your end medically, as well as to get here, probably equally as challenging.
Yeah, so I had to find a kidney specialist here in New Zealand to kind of really understand what it all meant for me. And he's an incredible nephrologist, so that worked. And he said, yeah, we'll do this. We'll do all, because they did want me to go to America to have the testing. And he said, no, we can do it here. So we did all the tests here. And at one point, I even had to FedEx a whole lot of my bloods to Norfolk from here in Auckland. And that was kind of, okay, is it going to get there? I've just given all these, it was about 8 or 10 test tubes of blood, had to get FedExed in a plane to America to arrive in a certain time so they could do additional testing, even though I'd done a lot here. So there was sort of those sort of little hoops. But I had to be there 2 weeks before to make sure we could do all the other tests that they needed to do on site. And I was actually walking on the beach. We live by the beach here in New Zealand, and it was, just kind of walking along, and I got a call from Steve, and I went, oh, really? You want me there in 2 weeks? So it's suddenly, because the April had been cancelled and everything, all the getting ready, it was sort of kind of stop-start, and it was quite anxious for a while. And I said, oh, well, quick, I'll just go see if I can make it all happen. And all the flights just came together. It's a reasonably long flight from Auckland to San Francisco. And of course, America was in lockdown. We weren't yet in New Zealand. So when I arrived in San Francisco, I mean, literally there was no one at the airport. It was just sort of, okay, I'm just going to sit around and wait for my connecting flights. And they all happened and, arrived happily in Norfolk. But Steve and his family were all in, home-based lockdown as well. So we went from trying to keep safe, mask wearing, all those things, all the way through, just doing everything that needed to happen so that there was nothing wrong. But when I got to the tricky thing, when I got to San Francisco, I hadn't thought about this because I travel on a British passport because our family immigrated to New Zealand when Steve and I were little, and America wasn't taking people from the UK. And so I had to go and talk to your border control, and they're quite officious because they're all army personnel. And this person wasn't really looking at me, and he said, oh, so what's happening? And I said, well, I travel on a British passport. I'm a permanent resident of New Zealand. I'm bringing my kidney for my brother. And the guy just suddenly looked up at me and went, what? And who is he? And have you got a copy of his passport? And I went, no, but this is who he is. He's an American citizen. I had to give him all my brother's details, and he looked him up and he said, oh, yeah. He said, oh, okay, then off you go. Bye. And he let me out. My suitcase was sitting there waiting patiently for me because this had taken about an hour. So that was like, I just hadn't even thought that I needed to have any special consideration at the border, but that was real freaky for a wee while that I'd got that far and I might not be able to get my connecting flights.
At any point did you worry about your health and being able to complete this mission with COVID?
Yeah, my nephrologist was really good at explaining. I actually had a friend who only had one kidney. He lost his through cancer, and he was telling me that he was fine, and he was older than me, and it was all, and there are changes I've had to make as a result of only having one kidney, but not huge. I was healthy. I didn't have any other conditions. There was no, because they tested me for absolutely everything else that I possibly could have had. And so I just, so I can't drink too much alcohol now. I can have a glass or two, and that's about my limit. I have to drink a lot more fluid and water and keep hydrated. keep my kidney functions. But already with, I say this to Steve when I go and get my tests to check how my kidneys are functioning. Because when I started off, my kidneys were at 88%, because you don't need 100% kidney function. So that meant that roughly each of my kidneys was at about a 40 odd percent. Well, already one of my remaining kidney has gone back up to about 60%. And I'm pretty sure the one inside Stephen's about that as well. So the kidneys have done their job. It's a really interesting science, how they can take something like that, reattach it to somebody and make it work.
Stephen, how do you think telehealth was able to contribute to the experience and the success that you had with your sister as a donor?
Oh, without a doubt, it made it so much easier. Not even the telehealth thing, but just being able to communicate about issues and explain things. And I met my wife, who's American, in 1993, and we used to have to rely on the occasional phone call and letters to communicate. But now, I could talk to my brother and sister immediately on the phone. Like I said, I could call them up, I could get on a Zoom call, we could talk through the processes, we could talk through everything we needed to do. My team stayed in constant contact with me about what they needed, how they wanted it, what we wanted to do. I mean, they were phenomenal. They were so dedicated in what they do. You really felt like you were looked after throughout the whole process, and since it as well. So yeah, telehealth was really, if it wasn't for telehealth and everything was locked down, I'm not sure how this would have functioned. But just also for my mental well-being, there were days when I was really struggling, especially when things were being postponed and I didn't know when it was going to happen. And I would talk to Lesley and Philip, and it's my brother, and it was fantastic just to have that support there, as well as that of my family. So they could see what I was going through, and you just felt awful anyway, but it was nice to know they're there, and they were always upbeat and optimistic.
Lesley, how do you think this would have worked without telehealth?
Yeah, and it was interesting because our health systems are really different. And so I didn't have any financial concerns about the surgery or stuff like that. Obviously, we paid ourselves. Well, actually, our mother's estate paid for our flights and because I did have to pay for some of my health stuff here, which they had hoped. I gave all those costs to Sentara, and they had hoped that they would have reimbursed us, but it didn't happen. But fortunately, we had a little bit of a nest egg from our mother when she passed away, and we were able to share that across the family. So there was no cost to any of us, really. Because I mean, our mother as well, even though she was in her late 80s, she even offered to give Stephen her kidney, but I mean, she was well past it by then. But it was so I didn't have to worry. I mean, no matter if it had cost us, we would have done it anyway. I don't think that was even an issue for us. But I mean, I had a major Zoom call, and I had I think 6 different medical professionals talking to me about, the surgeon, there was a psychologist, the social worker, there was another person who was the sort of my person if I had any issues, and then I had my donor, Guy Rowland, who was just fantastic. And I mean, and when I met these people in person, I still only have seen them from the nose up because everyone was masked up the whole time we were there. Never really saw people's faces. So, I'm hoping to be able to come back at some stage and just see everyone face to face. And but yeah, it just, I mean, and because I don't have an American health number, that was quite funny. I had to when we had to go and do tests at other clinics, I had to fill out all these forms, and I had to just use all Stephen's addresses and stuff because my number's a New Zealand number and it doesn't work in America. So there was those funny little clashes of the system, but it worked. It just, I felt really supported, which was fantastic. Even though it was scary and you had to take some of those leap of faith sort of thing, but the people, I honestly, the team there were exceptional. I mean, one example was just post-surgery, because I was in a different ward because Steve needed a little bit more care and attention post-surgery, and the charge nurse came in to say hi, and she was from Australia, but her husband was at the same university as Steven. So they knew each other. So she said, well, come on, I'll take you to see your brother. So she dropped me into a wheelchair because I was just post-surgery as well. And she wheeled me to the other side of the hospital just so I could see how Steve was getting on, and that was just above and beyond as far as I felt. They just really connected to what we were doing and just made us feel really welcome. The staff at the hospital were just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You can't
So it's been a couple of years. Steven, first with you, when you look back on this whole experience, what kind of goes through your mind? What are your emotions? What are your thoughts when you just think back on this whole experience right in the middle of COVID?
I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I kind of feel, blessed or lucky with the whole situation. It happened at a time where my sister could be a donor. COVID allowed me, even though with everything locked out, it allowed me to recover. My health is good at the moment. I mean, it wasn't enjoyable leading up to it, but it gives me another, I have another chance at life, and it's a functioning life where I enjoy what I do. I have more energy than I've had for ages. So, I actually think it's been a good experience overall. It's not something you want to experience, but rather me than anyone else type of thing. I wouldn't want anyone in my family to suffer the same thing or anything like that. So, I think I'm kind of lucky to be at this stage. I've seen other people waiting for transplants and know what that's like. And I feel very, very fortunate on the other side. Someone told me I was going to feel better afterwards, but I don't think they capture how well you feel. It's really quite remarkable, the miracle of this surgery. And so I think I'm pretty blessed. I mean, all these people worked really hard. My sister traveled, they gave me a kidney. How could I not feel grateful for everything they've done for me?
Yeah. I read there's a little quirky thing that's happened with taste and scent. Am I correct about that, Steven? What is that?
Yeah, it was.
Or Lesley, what you say?
Oh, well, because they actually told me that post-surgery I would feel like crap for at least 10 days, and I did. And neither Steve or I are very good patients, but we went through the post-surgery thing together, but we couldn't taste anything. Post-surgery anesthesia does that. So we had these amazing people that worked with Steve. They put together this food train. So every night we had something different for dinner that was provided by these wonderful people that he works with, and we could either go and purchase it or get it delivered, or they would deliver homemade food to the door. And every day Denise would say, well, what do you guys want for dinner tonight? And we'd look at her and go, whatever, it all just tasted the same. It looked beautiful, and eventually our sense of smell had come back, but the first few meals probably we didn't really appreciate as much. But and I'm a tea drinker. I don't drink coffee, and even Steve will tell you his coffee story, but nothing tasted like anything for a good 10 days. It was, so when it finally got our taste buds back, it was it was a kind of a revelation, because everything just tasted like cardboard for a wee while. But
Lesley, you feel good now?
Yeah, I'm really good. Yeah, I have got what they call, my nephrologist calls COVID calories, lockdowns and not maybe being as active as we were, but he laughed at, he does that in a joking way, my nephrologist. But other than that, healthy, fit, there's a very long 300-kilometer bike ride, which my husband and friends of ours did this time last year on mountain bikes. And you go from Mount Cook in the middle of the South Island in New Zealand to the ocean. So we did that ride over 5 days last year. So health-wise, and I didn't do it on an electric bike. We did it on a normal bike. So that was pretty exciting, just to achieve that and tick that off. Yeah.
Now, Steven, you say you're doing well.
Yeah, feel very good, and it is interesting. You're talking about the taste, and exercise is the same. And I hadn't tasted stuff for a while, but properly. I didn't really realize, again, things just tasted a little bit weird. And then again, having the food, and all of a sudden turning to my wife going, "Does this food always taste this well?" I just green beans, which I never quite liked. And I'm suddenly going, these are great. And I thought someone had put something on them, some sort of, sauce or something, which made them taste well. But everything is picked up. All my physiology is picked up. So even before, I try and keep exercising, but I found I just couldn't. It was like a car. I couldn't get out of third gear at all. And suddenly I could start to exercise, build up my strength again to the point where, I could actually sweat, which was nice. So yeah, in really good shape at the moment. Obviously, the COVID situation, the COVID pounds are still there, but working hard on them, and I'm enjoying it again. I'm grateful to be able to exercise.
Any final thing you want to add to the conversation, Steven?
I really want to thank a lot of people, as the recipient of the organ, which is keeping me alive. A lot of people spend a lot of time and energy, my sister, my family, my wife, my son, people I work with, my friends. As Lesley said, the people at Sentara were phenomenal. Roland French was the kidney coordinator, and he kept me sane so many times. Yeah, you would just call up and see how I was doing and keep in touch with me. My nephrologist was brilliant all the way through it. So I feel grateful. I feel like I owe these people to live the best life I can, because they gave so much time and effort and kidney to me that, I'm grateful for what I got, and I can never, ever thank them enough. There's nothing in the world I could say or do. I just couldn't find the words. So yeah, that's the biggest plus for me, the support of my wife as well throughout this whole process, seeing how I'm declining. And, we turn to each other, and she turns to me and goes, I'm really grateful you're not dying anymore. Because just the simple thing, Lesley and I, when we came out of surgery, we set a goal. We said, right, it was the simple thing. We want to be able to walk around the neighborhood with the dogs. We have 2 small dogs, and that was our goal. And being able to do that and be outside and look and be awake and alert, I was like, okay, this is really good. This is really special. Not that I took it for granted, but I just didn't have it for such a long period of time.
And one final question, and no regrets having done this with all of the complications that COVID presented.
I have no regrets whatsoever. I think it is what it is. This is my journey. I think it worked out perfectly for me. I got a fantastic kidney from my sister. She got over here. There were certainly challenges we had to overcome, but I was always confident it was going to work. Don't know why, you don't know how the process unfolds, but it's been an amazing journey, and it's still going on, thankfully. I've got lots more years to look forward to. I owe my sister a lot, so there's birthday presents in the mail. It's going to be late, but
right.
Lesley, I'll give you the final word. You impressed me just in this conversation as someone that has a lot of grit, a lot of drive, and a lot of determination. Would you say that you used it all here to accomplish this?
Yeah, I think we have to thank our parents and stuff for giving us the real commitment. I don't know if Steven mentioned to you that, when my older brother went to university and then I went to university, we used to flat together. We call it flatting, so we went to at the same university. And then when Steven went, he came and flatted with us. So our family is very close, even though we're separated by thousands of miles. And but having that time with Steve when we were recuperating was just a really great connection again, back to the things that we do as a family that we don't get to do them very often, but that bond is really strong. There's also some very funny jokes going around about Steve having a female kidney and what does that mean for him. And one of the donor guys, Roland, said to us before the surgery, he says, now I just have to tell you both that Steve, you will feel the need to nag a bit more once you've got this kidney, but don't worry about it. It's only a small thing, and typically. And then the other thing was that when he wants to go shopping, he has to try not to worry too much if he ends up in the female product aisle, because so we still joke a bit about the fact that he's got this female kidney and what does that mean, and it is. I just know that he would have done the same for me. Our older brother would have done, and that it was just had to be done, and it's a lifetime experience for me as well, which I'll cherish, that I was able to do it for him, because I want him to be around a lot longer. It's his turn to come to New Zealand too, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I really thank you both for sharing the story. It's a wonderful story, and it will be part of our story that's coming up on Steve on the 25th, I believe, of April, which will also be available online. Lesley or Stephen can send you a link to it.
Definitely, thank you.
But it's a wonderful story, and Stephen, congratulations to you. And I just have this sense you're going to live life to the fullest. You seem really committed to that. And Lesley, you've really helped to make that happen. It's a great story. It's a great story.
Thank you,
I
David.
appreciate you taking the time to share it with me and with our viewers.
Happy to do it. Thanks, David, for arranging this.
All right. And thank you.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Take care. Happy Easter.
See you, sis.